Well, being a C8 owner and making videos on C8s and being in a lot of forums and stuff about C8s online in any kind of capacity, I still see a lot of people that scoff at the C8 at the cost and simply say things like, oh, I'll wait a few years, I'll scoop one up for like $40,000. Now, me personally, even in a few years, if I could get one that cheap, I don't think you could, would I? Would I buy a C8 Corvette out of warranty? Let's talk about it. What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. Happy hot Sunday. It's like 98 degrees with like 110 heat index. So I'm doing a video in my garage today, not outside. So today we're talking about obtaining or buying a C8 out of warranty and the future of C8s, how I think it's going to be for DIYers like myself going forward. And would I own a C8 out of warranty? I don't know. Now, for reference, I've owned a lot of Corvettes. I've owned two C4s, C5 right now, C6, a C7, and a C8 behind me. My C5 Z06 has just under 100,000 miles on it. I'd buy another one with that many miles on it, not even thinking about it. They're very reasonably priced, and parts are pretty readily available and relatively easy to swap out. Even a C6. C6 is very simple. A few more computer-controlled items, but again, it wouldn't really deter me. A high mileage C6. A C7 gets questionable, but I probably still would buy a high mileage C7. Now, if you have a C8 Corvette, it uses a DCT transmission, a Tremec, the same manufacturer that makes the ones in the C5 or since the C5. If you have a C8 out of warranty and your DCT just totally craps out on you, if you want a new one plus labor, you're going to spend about $20,000 to replace that. That's a lot of money. Where a Tremec T56 on a C5 Z06, you could get one rebuilt online for a few $1,000s and do the work yourself in a garage without a lift. A lift does help, but you can do it without a lift. For C8 to do a transmission and or engine swap, you do have to have a 4-post lift. You absolutely have to get it up off the ground. It's pretty modular. It's not a terrible job to move it, but you do need very specific support equipment to do it. Just be cognizant of that. And most people don't readily have access to a lift. They can get access to it, but it's not something you can do in your garage on a weekend, typically. And real quick, the C8 does come with a 3-year, 36,000 mile bumper to bumper and a 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain. So by now, I'm sure there are some 2020s and 2021s that are officially totally out of warranty. Now, the jury is still out on the C8's reliability. You see a lot of talks about the transmission. Most of the people that post items online about their C8 having troubles with it is because they're unhappy with it. I want to say the fail rate on a DCT for the C8 is about 1%. Not terribly high, but it is higher than average. But I feel like they're getting a lot of the kinks and bugs worked out. It's a brand new platform with a brand new transmission made just for the car. So there are going to be issues, and they're always releasing new software updates, mitigate and fix certain items on the C8. Now for me, in the future, it's not so much the mechanics of the C8 that would worry me, it's all the computer-controlled items on the car. There's a lot. Virtually every component on the C8 is controlled by a computer. Almost everything. We're on a C5, C6, it's much more of an analog car. And if you have a failing computer item on a C5, you get a new component, you swap it out, you're all set, you're done. Where on a C8, it's a lot more tied into everything, every aspect of the car talks to one another. Now the C8 Corvette, in case you didn't know, is the first time it's dipped into exotic territory after 70 plus years of manufacturing. And they simply had to keep up with competition. They just had to go mid-engine, and they were maxed out on the front engine design. They simply just needed to move the engine to the back, and I understand why they did it completely. But with that, you're gonna have a lot more exotic items, and future DIYers are gonna be very stressed out, no question about that. And you're gonna need a lot more very unique, very exotic diagnostic tools, and like I said, support equipment for the C8 in the future, no doubt about that. And like I said, it still is a Tremec transmission, the same one that, the same company that made the one for my C5 Z06. That's a very simple transmission, in comparison to a DCT, where the Tremec T56 is a manual. It's very simple. You can tear it down in a day if you have the proper tools to do it. Where on a DCT, I haven't seen anyone tear one down and rebuild it. I think right now it's an entire component swap. That's what they're doing, as far as I can tell. And yes, you can source a used C8 transmission from a wrecked car for about $7,000 plus shipping, plus labor. However, you have no idea how well that transmission is going to perform, or if it's going to perform. The car got hit just right, it torques the rear axle or the frame just right, the whole thing is messed up. So it's kind of a gamble when you buy a used Tremec DCT. Or if you want peace of mind, you get one from the dealer plus labor. You're looking at close to $20,000 post-warranty on your C8 Corvette. Now the LT2 powertrain on the C8s, it's a very similar motor to the LS that came before it. That doesn't bother me. I feel like this motor is going to be cannibalized a lot in the future for other platforms. With that being said, the flat plane 5.5 for the Z06, awesome motor. Way out of my comfort zone as far as working on it. As cool as it would be to own a Z06 one day out of warranty, I don't think I would personally. To me, it's like owning a Ferrari at that point. You're gonna spend a lot of money, and the tolerances on that motor are probably, they are incredibly tight. And it's not something I would ever personally, with my garage tools here, want to work on. The LT2 motor, not as scary, very similar to the LS platform. I'd be okay with that. Probably my biggest concern by 2040, when this car is 20 years old, if the car still runs, mechanically it's sound, it's all of the electronics that control the car. If you own a C8 right now, GM's always sending over-the-air updates to fix anything. Yeah, GM's always sending out over-the-air updates from any component on the car. They can talk to pretty much. And in 20 years from now, you will not have that support. What you get's what you get. Unless there's a really strong third party that's really good at writing software for the C8, because I'm sure by then GM's like, we're not gonna spend our money when we have a C9 or C10 out. The C8's gonna be an afterthought. And trying to keep software running smoothly, I see that being a total nightmare. Furthermore, it's very hard to swap component on this car, a major component, without having the dealer pair it back up to the main ECU. You can't just swap a motor, you can't just swap your transmission, you can't just swap your ABS module, you can't just swap an ECU, you can't just swap a PCM. All those major components, and even probably smaller components, probably even just your radio. If you wanted to swap it out, you could do it, but you can't. That's as far as it's going to go. It's going to be bricked. You have to take it to the dealer, and they have to do certain things to make it talk to one another. On a C5, C6, major component, no big deal. Swap it out, boom, you're all set. Yeah, even the theft system I see could be a total nightmare in the future on these cars. And everything is tracked with OnStar and my phone. Even I can do everything to my car from my phone. So, although very cool now, out of warranty, the car is a little old, starts getting gremlins. The car starts cycling over many years, hot, cold cycles. The wiring starts to get brittle. Somewhere you gotta chase a wire, something breaks. I just see it being a total nightmare. So for me personally, in 10 years, if I didn't have a C8, I wanted to get back into one, I would have to look at reliability of the C8 at that point and the third-party support for C8. I also see 10 years from now, a lot of the front lift systems will probably be they have a lot of issues with the front lift. And it's a hydraulic system. Hydraulics tend to fail and leak. Out of warranty, I see a lot of people deleting their front lift system because it's going to be a nightmare. I could be wrong. A lot of the 3LT cars with the leather package on the dash is this going to be, I think half the leather package cars, any GM car, even the C6, C7, it just bubbles over time and it's just going to drive you insane. So I think on a C8, a 2LT is the sweet spot. But as far as the superficial stuff like the leather, you can still drive the car. Of course, it would just drive me insane. Anyways, this is just stuff to think about. Then, like I said, I see a lot of comments that are just like, oh, the C8, I'll wait till they get cheap and I'll scoop one up for cheap and then I'll have a cheap supercar, which might be true, but it might be like buying a 15-year-old R8, which is cool you have one, but at what cost, on top of the cost of the car you just purchased. So don't get me wrong, a C8 is still an amazing value. Buying one you use right now with a warranty is still a great option, in my opinion. I think you can get a decent C8 now, 1LT, for low 60s with the warranty. So they're definitely coming down a little bit, but something to think about for the future outside of a warranty on C8s. It might be a little dicey, might be a little scary. So something to think about. I was gonna do a fun outdoor video today on the car. It's too hot, man. It's way too hot. And my C8 custom front end deal should be here this week, I hope, to get that video out. So, man, it's getting hot in here. It's like 85 degrees. Cool, that's all I got for today, guys. I want to know, and also your opinions below. Please let me know what you think. Maybe I'm missing something completely. I don't know. So, all right, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Work out.